Good morning, children. Hearty welcome to all of you for today's moral science session. Hope all are doing good. So, if you are ready, let's get started. Today, in this session, I will be discussing the first part of the 10th lesson of our moral science textbook. The name of our lesson is Values and Media. First of all, I have a question for you. What is media? Yes, media is the main means of communication. Okay, so let's start our lesson. Let me read the first portion. One of the notable changes in our social environment in the 20th and the 21st centuries has been the overwhelming influence of the mass media on our culture. Before the advent of the radio, 100 years ago, people had only one medium to turn to for general knowledge and awareness of the world. That was the print media. Books and newspaper were the rich sources of information available at that time. The leaps and bounds from wireless telegraphy to wireless transmission in radio, wireless transmission or radio was a milestone in the field of broadcasting. However, with the advent of television, computer, mobile phones, and the internet, it's totally a different realm of information transmission and communication. Okay, so let's see the explanation of the first paragraph. One of the notable change that occurred in the 20th and the 21st century is that the overwhelming influence of mass media. You know what is mass media? One of the notable change, one of the important change that occurred in the 20th and 21st centuries is that the overwhelming influence of mass media. What do you mean by overwhelming? A very great amount, a very large amount. That is what is overwhelming. So, a great influence of mass media. That is what is the notable change occurred in the 20th and 21st century. Okay, 100 years ago, before the advent of radio or before the introduction of radio, people had only one medium for general knowledge and awareness of the world. That was print media. Books and newspaper were the only means of communication at that time. So we can say radio was a milestone in the field of broadcasting. You know what is broadcasting? Okay, so we can say the condition has been changed. The social environment has been changed, totally changed, isn't it? So television, computer, mobile phone, internet, it's a totally different realm of information transmission and communication. Did you get the first paragraph, children? Once again, I'll give you the explanation of the first paragraph. So one of the notable change that occurred in the 20th and 21st centuries is that the overwhelming influence of mass media. The very large influence of mass media. Overwhelming means a very good, a large amount, a very great amount. Then, 100 years ago, before the advent of radio, people had only one medium for general knowledge and awareness of the world. That was print media. Books and newspaper were the only means of communication at that time. So we can say radio was a milestone in the field of broadcasting. So now what's the condition of our social environment? Yes, a lot of equipments, electronic equipments has come to our life. Television, computer, mobile phone, internet. It's a totally different realm of information transmission and communication. Okay, so let's move on to the next paragraph. There is no escaping these various forms of media today as it touches so many aspects of our daily lives. The young, especially teenagers, are very keenly influenced by what the media portrays. There are both advantages as well as disadvantages. It is not the use of modern amenities but rather it's misuse that makes life difficult. Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, has depicted man's mind as a chariot drawn by two horses, one tamed and the other wild, symbolizing prudence and passion respectively. Both pull the mind in opposite directions. This conflict is between what to be and what not to be, what to accept and what to reject. So, in this case, on one side is the rich, indispensable source of infotainment provided by various means of electronic media, and on the other, it is its adverse influence on people. So, let us examine a few basic influences that the various forms of media exposes us to. Okay, so let's see the content of the second paragraph. So, today we have no chance to escape from these various forms of media. What's the reason, children? Because it became a part of our lives. We can't think a day without a mobile phone. Am I right, children? Yes. So, teenagers are deeply influenced by the media. There are both advantages and disadvantages. As we know, the modern equipments are useful, but if we misuse it, it makes life difficult. So let's listen the words of Plato. Who was Plato? Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher. He says that man's mind is like a chariot drawn by two horses. You know what is a chariot? Chariot means a cart, a horse cart. What's the difference between a chariot and a horse cart? Chariot means it's drawn by two horses. Cart means it will be drawn by only one horse. Okay, so Plato says that man's mind is like a chariot drawn by two kinds of horses. One is tamed and the other is a wild horse. You know what's the meaning of tamed animals? Dog is a tamed animal. But what about a tiger? It's a wild animal. So have you got the difference between tamed and wild? Okay, so Plato says that man's mind is like a chariot drawn by two kinds of horses. One is tamed and the other is a wild horse. So what will be the condition? Of course, we will never reach the destination. So here Plato symbolizes the tamed horse to prudence. What do you mean by prudence? Prudence means skill and good judgment in the use of resources. And the other is to passion. Passion, powerful emotion. So what is he trying to say, children? Yes, man should be prudent. What do you mean by prudent? Yes, see, listen. It's a conflict in between what to accept or what to reject. Okay, so here both pull the mind to opposite directions. If it is drawn or if the chariot is drawn by two types of horses, it will pull the chariot to opposite directions. Okay, so like that, if man is not prudent enough or if man is not prudent, it became a conflict between what to accept or what to reject. On one side, it's a rich source of infotainment given by various means of electronic media. On the other side, it influenced adversely on teenage people. So, once again, children, I'll give you the explanation of the same paragraph. Today, we have no chance to escape from these various forms of media. What's the reason? Because it became a part of our lives. As I told you, we can't imagine a day without a telephone or without a mobile phone. So, here teenagers are deeply influenced by the media. There are both advantages and disadvantages. As we know, the modern equipments are useful, but if we misuse it, what will be the condition? It will make life difficult. So, let's listen the words of Plato. Who was Plato? Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher. So, he says that man's mind is like a chariot drawn by two types of horses, two kinds of horses. One is tamed and the other one is wild. So, can you imagine a chariot drawn by two kinds of horses? one is tamed and the other is a wild horse, what will be the condition? Of course, we know that we will never reach the destination. So here Plato symbolizes the tamed horse to prudence and the other to passion. As I told you, what's the meaning of prudence? Prudence means skill and good judgment in the use of resources, and passion, powerful emotion. So both pull the mind to opposite direction. So what Plato is trying to say, children? Yes, he says that man should be prudent. What do you mean by prudent? Man should be prudent means man should have the ability to judge, or man should have the skill, or man should have a good judgment skill in the use of equipments or in the use of electronic media. Otherwise it will affect our lives. So it became a conflict between what to accept and what to reject. On one side, it's a rich source of infotainment. What do you mean by infotainment? Infotainment means information and entertainment. As we know, television is an equipment of infotainment. It will give us information and at the same time it's a source of entertainment. So infotainment, on one side it's a rich source of infotainment given by various means of electronic media, but on the other side it influences adversely, especially teenage people. So let's examine a few advantages and disadvantages of the various forms of media. So come to the next page. See the first one, it's an advantage. Have you seen the mark, the red mark, plus point? Okay, then come to a negative point, and again plus point, then to a negative mark. Okay, so listen, the first one, it's an advantage. It's a reservoir of information and knowledge. See, this is what is the advantage of the media or mass media or different types of media. So it's a reservoir of information and knowledge. Let me read it. So the world wide web, you know what it is? WWW. Okay, the world wide web is a huge source of knowledge and news. Any kind of information we require, it can be obtained through search engines. The amount of research and material accessible to us today is unfathomable. You can access the latest news from around the world, even the most far-flung countries, in a matter of minutes through the television, the internet, or even your mobile phone. So what is the advantage, children? Reservoir of information and knowledge. We know what is the meaning of reservoir. Okay, so World Wide Web, WWW, it's a huge source of information. We can obtain any kind of information through these types of search engines. We will get the latest news around the world through the television or even our mobile phone. That is what is the advantage of a mass media. So once again, I'll give you the sentence. The World Wide Web is a huge source of knowledge and news. Okay, any kind of information we require can be obtained through search engines. So the amount of research and material accessible to us today is unfathomable. What do you mean by unfathomable? Immeasurable. Unfathomable means immeasurable. So the amount of research or the amount of material accessible to us today is unfathomable, immeasurable. It's a huge source of knowledge and news. So we can say we can see or we can hear the latest news from around the world or even the most far away countries in a matter of minutes through our television or even through our mobile phones. So did you get the advantage? Yes, it's a reservoir of information and knowledge. Okay, so the next one is a disadvantage. What it is? False measure of beauty and image. So the disadvantage of mass media is false measure of beauty and image. We know the media shows unrealistic level of beauty and image through advertisements. Hmm? It influences the teenagers harmfully. The advertisements of beauty soaps and fairness creams put tremendous pressure on young people. Most times, it leads them to frustration or a sense of inferiority complex. So, the unrealistic projection of physical beauty leads them to depression. We know a lot of advertisements are there for beauty soaps and fairness creams. The teenagers, they thought that it will help them to become a beauty person, a beautiful person. So what they will do, they will use it. At last they realize that it will not make any good for them. So it leads them to depression, or it leads them to a sense of inferiority complex. So it's a disadvantage of media, false measure of beauty and image. Did you understand? Okay, so it reveals or it depicts unrealistic projection of physical beauty. Then what will be the result, children? It will result tremendous pressure on young people. They will not reach up to that level. That is what is shown in the advertisements or campaigns. So it leads them to a depression, or it leads them to frustration or a sense of inferiority complex. Okay, so the next one is gain an advantage. The shrinking world. You know what's the meaning of shrinking? Shrinking means becoming smaller in size. Becoming smaller in size. The world is shrinking. The world is becoming smaller in size. By how? Let's see. Connecting with long lost friends or family across different countries is no longer an impossible task. Through social networking, friends and family in any part of the world can talk and share quite simply, as if they were all sitting in one room. With the world at our fingertips, we can learn new languages, explore distant lands, shop for the latest outfits, and much more, all without leaving the comfort of our homes. So, this is what is the second advantage of media. So, listen, connecting with long lost friends or family across different countries is no longer an impossible task. Now, it's an impossible task. What is an impossible task? Connecting our friends or connecting our family members living in different countries. It's no longer an impossible task. Why? What's the reason, children? Because the world is shrinking. With the advent of these types of media, internet, mobile phones, telephones, like that. Okay, so with the world at our fingertips, so we can say the world is at our fingertips. We can learn new languages, we can explore distant lands, we can shop for the latest outfits, and much more. All without leaving the comfort of our homes. We can sit in the comfort of our bedroom. We do not want to leave the comfort of our homes. We can sit in our bedroom and do all these things. We can connect with the long lost friends or family members who live across different countries. It's not longer an impossible task. It's a very easy task. By how, children? Through social networking. Family or friends in any part of the world can talk and share quite simply, as if they were sitting all in one room. So what's the reason, children? With the advent of this internet, or with the advent of this electronic media, it helps us to shop for the latest outfits. It helps us to learn new languages. It helps us to explore distant lands without leaving the comfort of our homes. Okay, so we can connect our long lost friends, or we can connect our family, friends, those who are living in any part of the world. Without minutes, we can talk to them as if we all are sitting in one room. Understood? So this is what is an advantage. That is, the shrinking world is an advantage of this electronic media. And the next one is again a disadvantage. Glorification of destructive behavior. So let me read it. The accessibility anonymity, and the freedom associated with modern means of media and communication has also resulted in an upsurge of content that promotes and glorifies negative behavior like violence, racial discrimination, drug abuse, hatred, and hostility. Besides being highly addictive, even virtual games contain an overload of violence, bloodshed, and use of bad language, which have the power to contaminate young minds. So, actually, it's a disadvantage of the use of internet or mobile phones like that. Okay, so let's see what it is. So, glorification of destructive behavior. So, what do you mean by destructive behavior? Negative behavior. Okay, so let's see the use of these types of internet and mobile phones. It resulted in an upsurge of content. What do you mean by upsurge? Upsurge means an increase. It resulted in an increase of content that it promotes and glorifies negative behavior like violence, racial discrimination, drug abuse, hatred and hostility, enmity. Hostility means enmity. So, what is the meaning of this, children? Yes, accessibility. What do you mean by accessibility? Availability. Anonymity. What do you mean by anonymity? The state of being unknown. So, these types of facilities, accessibility, availability, anonymity, and freedom, these things make the teenagers leads to negative behavior. It promotes or it glorifies negative behavior like violence, racial discrimination. You know what is racial discrimination? Discrimination in between caste, CASTE. Okay, then drug abuse, the use of drugs, then hatred and hostility, enmity. So it results, or these electronic media results negative behavior among teenagers like violence, racial discrimination, drug abuse, and enmity. Besides these, highly addictive teenagers, especially teenagers, those who are using mobile phones, they became highly addicted to it. Then what about the virtual games, video games? They are addicted to virtual games, video games. It contains a lot of violence, bloodshed, and use of bad language. So it contaminates young minds. It's very sure, of course, it contaminates the young minds or the teenagers. So the use of mobile phones or the use of internet, it has advantages and at the same time it has disadvantages too. So we human beings should realize the effect and at the same time the adverse qualities of mobile phones. So if we misuse it, it will spoil our lives. Do you understand, children? It's a very good lesson. It's a morally valued lesson. What do you mean by values and media? Did you understand the title or the topic of our lesson? Yes, what it is. Values and media. So what do you mean by this, children? We have to realize the value of medias. We have to realize what to accept or what to reject. We have to use it properly, otherwise it will spoil our lives. Understood? Okay, so there is an assignment for you, children. Here it is, something to think about. What is the role of the various forms of mass media in your life? Did you get the question, children? What is the role of the various forms of mass media? Various forms of mass media, it's there. You know what it is. So what is the role of the various forms of mass media in your life? Then the second one, list out the different media that you use on a daily basis. Did you understand the question, children? You have to write the answer in your textbook itself. The first one, what is the role of the different forms of media in your life, or how it is important in your life? Then you can list out the different media that you use in your daily life. Okay, so here comes an end of today's session, children. As usual, there will be an assignment for you. You have to write it and send it to me on Google, not to Google, children, in my WhatsApp number. Okay, thank you, children. Have a nice day.